Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star original continent based on novel. So let's start. This miniature universe had a diameter of 1 billion light years. No more, no less. When it was being blasted out of the primal universe, a gaping hole with a diameter bigger than 1 billion light years was left on the membrane walls of the primal universe. The miniature universe revolved in a rolling manner that crushed and compacted the surroundings, causing the chaotic airflow to be in an upsurge. To bombard such a massive object hard enough to push it out of its original position, how powerful a force would that be? There was a violent vibration, and the vibration was transmitted out. Since the time when Luo Feng had caused billions of races of the primal universe to bow before him, he had become a subject of concern for every single race of universe ocean. When he had brought his many other bodies back to his god country, great beings from the various races of universe ocean had also long been stationed at areas outside the universe membrane walls corresponding to the humans' territory at the earlier stage, that is, the humans' territory before huge Axe's annihilation. As many as several hundred universe masters were scattered all over, lying low in waiting. Tear. A green-colored beast that resembled a lizard was suspended amidst the void space in a winding manner with flashing green eyes. There are ripples. Right away, it discovered that not far away, there a bout of powerful ripples was being transmitted over. Without further ado, it teleported and rushed toward where it had located its target. What? After reaching its destination upon teleportation, it spotted at first glance the massive miniature universe that was still rolling and rumbling, even though it was a distance away. Within this vast region, it was not alone. A few dozen universe masters had rushed over upon detecting the ripples. It is a miniature universe. It's huge. It is very close to the membrane wall of the primal universe. It probably just blasted out. Look, it is still tumbling about. It must have just been thrown out. Such a big miniature universe. How big must it be? It was so large. Plus, the surging waves of chaotic airflow made it difficult to have a clear view of anything at all. Using their naked eyes alone, the universe masters would not be able to come up with an accurate judgment. Instantly, the universe masters teleported nearer to this miniature universe. Encircling it, they tried to come up with a more accurate judgment of its actual size. This newly emerged miniature universe has a diameter of 1 billion light years. 1 billion light years. Other true gods' miniature universes are all only as big as 100 million light years. Purple Moon Holy Land universe has a diameter of 210 million light years, and East Emperor Holy Land universe has a diameter of 320 million light years. But both the Holy Land ancestors had long transcended reincarnation to achieve a much higher level. That is how their miniature universes were able to get so big. For this Milky Way Horde leader's miniature universe to be so big. This is quite unexpected. They were all shocked. But even though they were shocked, they were still able to accept. Because in their hearts, they all knew that for Luo Feng to become the #1 master of Universe Ocean while still a mere universe master, and for him to be able to get billions of races, including true gods, of the primal universe to bow before him the moment he achieved a breakthrough, it was not strange for him to be able to create such a miracle, given such impressive power and influence. Right away, the news was rapidly spread to every race in the entire universe ocean. He has become a true god, and his miniature universe has a diameter of 1 billion light years. Ha ha! Great! Divine I True Master and the other 4 True Masters had gathered, and Divine I True Master was greatly delighted as he commented, Milky Way is by far the most powerful true god. We finally have a hope of stemming the tide of the Sector Beast crisis. Only a true god, and yet his miniature universe is so big. Even the inheritance of the ancient civilization of the world of Jinn has no records of such a feat. Incredible, incredible. Impossible. Purple Moon Ancestor also got the news and was in for a great shock. Ancestor, I saw it with my own eyes. The godly-powered avatar of a particular universe master beneath Purple Moon Ancestor reported deferentially. Not just me, in fact. The various races of universe ocean all know that this is the absolute truth. Purple Moon Ancestor was dumbfounded. This. During some favorable encounters in his life, Purple Moon Ancestor had belittled even someone like East Emperor. Undoubtedly, he must have known a great deal. Previously, billions of races all bowed to him as a means of congratulating him, and now, his true God miniature universe has attained a diameter of 1 billion light-years. Purple Moon Ancestor shook his head. From this pulse of mine, there have been several existences who stood at the peak of the ancient civilization. However, for all of them, when they became true gods, their miniature universes had diameters of 100 million light-years. It was the same for everyone in this ancient civilization, without exception. This Luo Feng, what has he done? Purple Moon Ancestor gritted his teeth. No matter how strong you are, it will be best if you can kill all the sector beasts. In Universe Ocean, it was a scene of celebration. Even Luo Feng's enemies were equally delighted, because he was their only hope of dealing with the sector beasts. Of course, the humans in their own territorial grounds were most excited. Luo Feng's parents, his wife, his sons, and his other family members, as well as Primal Chaos City leader and Tru Yang, all of whom were always greatly concerned about Luo Feng, were excited beyond containment. Even teacher Origin could not help marveling when he learned of the news, saying, "How can a mere true god's miniature universe be this big? Incredible. This is simply incredible." No matter how the outside world rejoiced, no one was able to establish contact with Luo Feng. Within his miniature universe, Luo Feng looked all around. The void passages had long vanished, and the entire miniature universe was filled with an endless and majestic chaotic airflow. The universe has expanded to its ultimate limit. The next step will be to unite all my other bodies, return back to their origin, and then transform back into my earthling original body. There are also the universe origin and universe structure. Luo Feng held his breath. The next steps had to be completed in succession. And among them, the one involving the universe structure was the most important step. The internal structure of the miniature universe had to be determined at the very beginning, before everything else could be finalized. Once the chaotic airflow started to transform into the 10 basic law forces, such as time and space, there would no longer be the chance to establish the structure. For any superior great being, there was only one chance for structuring their universe. This was a once-in-a-lifetime event. 1. This structure would determine the future of the miniature universe, when it had to undergo evolution in the future. 2. It determined the origin of the miniature universe. And 3. It determined the ultimate limit that the great being could attain. Determining the most basic structure was like laying the foundation when building a skyscraper. If the foundation was not well established, then naturally, it would not be possible to construct a skyscraper at all. If a universe structure was not well constructed to begin with, then in the future, the gradual evolution of the miniature universe would also be limited. For instance, it would be impossible to achieve a breakthrough in evolving to the eternal true God stage. Even if one might already have an extremely high comprehension ability, if one's miniature universe did not evolve and enhance itself, there would never be a breakthrough. How could this step be taken lightly? Luo Feng stood amid the endless, chaotic airflow where his eyes could easily reach any corner of his miniature universe. All bodies unite. Return to origin. Luo Feng gave the order right away. His voice resounded throughout the entire miniature universe. A strong bout of power immediately worked its influence over Luo Feng's original body, Mosha body, golden horned beast body, remote ocean body, and the small remote ocean lake. Instantly, all of these were shifted to another space. This space was contained within the miniature universe origin. At that moment, it was chaotic within the internal space of the universe origin, as the structure had yet to finalize. The universe structure must be finalized before the origin could take full form. Disintegrate. The other bodies were completely disintegrated instantly, while all the treasures that they carried with them floated aside. This combination of disintegrated bodies transformed into the core of a formidable godly power, where a heart was found. That was the heart of a true god. The heart of a true God was the most important thing within the body of a true God. The soul would be hidden within the heart, and it was how he could communicate with the origin of his miniature universe. If the origin of his miniature universe was transformed into a great amount of godly power, this power could be transmitted directly to the heart of a true God. Once the heart of a true God shattered, that marked the end of the true God. Luo Feng's origin of miniature universe was 1,000 times stronger than that of any other true God at the same level, so his heart was also stronger by 1,000 times. Return to origin. As the voice of Luo Feng's willpower sounded, a great godly power started to change and condense through a cohesion process. In the process of cohesion, the godly power was constantly being refined, and in moments, it soared by 100 times. At the same time, the cohesion process gave form to flesh and blood, skeletal structure and bones, skin and hair. Very soon, a naked, black-haired man appeared within the origin of the miniature universe that had yet to take complete form. When the miniature universe is complete, I can return to the origin, Luo Feng whispered to himself with a sigh. With the previous God country, how would it be able to support such an original earthling body of mine? Unfortunately, he thought, my power that has soared up to 100 times. This is merely a transformation of my godly power. So now, my godly power is only left with 1% of my previous amount. If this remaining power was spread out and transformed in the form of an ocean, then previously, his godly power could be transformed into an ocean with a diameter of 12 light years. Now, he was left with a power that could be transformed into an ocean with a diameter slightly more than 2 light years. Of course, so long as there was enough power, it was still possible to recover back to the diameter of 12 light years. This was, however, up to Luo Feng's miniature universe to swallow and consume enough power for supply. The primal universe could no longer provide Luo Feng with any more energy. Fortunately, by becoming a true God, my soul will be hidden within the heart of true God. In terms of quantity, even if I have not achieved my ultimate potential, my power can still be released to its maximum potential. Regardless, I have finally become a true God. Luo Feng let out a long sigh and, for the moment, felt a tremendous amount of fiery passion. True God. He had waited so long for this day. Come. Luo Feng set his gaze afar. Not far from him, all the treasures, like Wu Qi God and Shawu wings, which were afloat in mid-air, suddenly came flying at high speed toward him. Wu Qi God enveloped him all over, forming an armor over his entire body, while Shawu wings also appeared on his back. Star Tower, Blood Ghost Blade, and various other treasures were all stored with a flip of Luo Feng's palm. Now, we have to start on the most important step, Luo Feng said to himself. The pulse of Duandong River and the pulse of the world of Jin both have a set of their own miniature universe structure laws. Even the 3 generations of ancestors and the godly king of Jin's miniature universe structure laws have records. However, my set of structure law does not necessarily have to be the same as theirs. A long time ago, Luo Feng had once put some thought into designing a framework for his own structure law. This was a final set of laws that Luo Feng had come up with. It was based on other various structure laws from the pulse of Duandong River and the pulse of the world of Jin. At the time, Luo Feng had named it Cloud 9. However, this time around, he had broken through to achieve 100,000 times life gene level. For the past year or so, while swallowing godly power from the endless remote ocean, Luo Fen had been constantly pondering the matter. Based on his comprehension of the life structure diagram and the numerous structure laws that he had come across throughout this period of time, he had created another set of structure laws. Upon coming up with this newer set of structure laws, Luo Feng could instantly sense that it had absolutely transcended its predecessor, Cloud 9. Luo Feng named this set of structure laws, Beginning of the Origin. Luo Feng stood within the space of the universe origin of his miniature universe. Internally, everything was chaotic, because it had yet to take complete form. Rise. Luo Feng's thoughts shrouded the entire universe, and regardless of the space of origin, or all the chaos within the universe, everything shook and trembled. 100,000 heavens. Luo Feng's willpower enshrouded everything around him as it started to get mobilized. It was just like how the myths and legends described the creation of heaven and earth. It was not one Pan Jiu creating the universe, but 100,000 of him, simultaneously creating the universe. The chaotic airflow within the entire universe was manipulated into splitting and rotating, then gradually condensing to take form as planes within space started to rapidly emerge. Within the span of a single thought, 100,000 planes within spaces were formed. Luo Feng's face registered a solemn expression. The execution of this structure law, beginning of the origin, was tens of thousands of times more difficult than the execution of Cloud 9. Even if his willpower was differentially controlled, there was still a chance of failure. The moment he failed, his structure law could not be regarded as a beginning of the origin. It would only suffice as 100,000 heavens, which meant it was only comparable to structure laws that were considered relatively superior, like those of the pulse of Duandong River, or the pulse of the world of Jin. Luo Feng, for one, would certainly not be content to be at this level. Just as Luo Feng was putting his universe structure in place, within the vast universe ocean, Sector Beast Morosa was advancing at high speed. Loathsome. The two heads of Sector Beast Morosa looked ferocious. They all knew my power is greatly reduced. Even those fools whom I have always looked down upon previously are all charging toward me now. Now, I don't even have a space to survive in within the Sector Beast's nest. If not for them, given my power, it would not be difficult at all for me to make my way back to the third stage. Anger. Although Morosa had madly devoured an entire Sector Beast to climb its way up to the second stage, that Sector Beast had transmitted the news about Morosa's greatly reduced power before it was annihilated. This had reduced Sector Beast Morosa to the state of a rat scampering across the street, with everyone chasing after him, trying to attack him. When Morosa had stood at the peak, instinctively, it had wanted to kill the other Sector Beasts too. Now that it was weak, it was natural for the other Sector Beasts to want to reciprocate with revenge. I can only return to Universe Ocean. Sector Beast Morosa shook its head. Since I no longer have a place in the nest, then before I meet my end, I shall let that Milky Way Horde leader Luo Feng know the consequences of messing with me. Morosa was not fully confident that it could take revenge on Luo Feng. However, it did not have a choice. The burning desire to destroy ran in its blood. It was the source of its courage to bring destruction upon itself by taking revenge on Luo Feng. Even if it could not kill Luo Feng, it would still attempt to draw out the repulsive feelings toward Luo Feng. And finally, it would transmit all the information it had back to the land of darkness, and cause Luo Feng to fall into a truly massive calamity. Sector Beast Morosa executed a series of long-distance teleportations, and very soon, it arrived at the peripheral region of a miniature universe. Roar! The black fog reappeared in a winding manner around Morosa, while streams of distorted light rays extended out directly toward the miniature universe. It did not devour, but merely maintained this state. A short while later, a ship appeared out of nowhere, and a figure flew out from within it. This figure was none other than the majestic and burly nine-headed Demon Master. Nine-headed Demon Master related everything he knew, including the billions of races within the primal universe going down on their knees to bow to Luo Feng, and Luo Feng's miniature universe, with a diameter of 100,000 light-years. Everything it knew, it related without leaving out a single detail. The more Morosa learned, the more twisted his expression became. Milky Way Horde Leader's miniature universe has just entered Universe Ocean, Nine-Headed Demon Master informed Morosa. At this point, he ought to be laying the structure of his miniature universe. Even if his miniature universe has finalized its form, there is still the evolution of chaos. All these steps require time to complete, and since his miniature universe is so big, I suspect the time that is required will be much longer than most true gods. He might be stuck in there for a month or two. Sector Beast Morosa was delighted to hear this. Stuck in there? Joyfully, Morosa thought, true. After becoming a true god, this Luo Feng will have no other bodies. Only his original body. Then he will not be so daring as to patrol about Universe Ocean. He has to protect his miniature universe, as well as his human race. However, there is also the possibility that he will risk coming out to patrol anyway. After all, with so many true gods in his Hong alliance, if such a group were to take action together, they would still be able to stop me. Endless thoughts went through Morosa's mind. Then it grinned. No matter what, at least for the coming 2 months. Luo Feng was not able to come out. Ha ha ha, Morosa laughed heartily. Nine-headed, you did well, he praised. Nine-headed demon master bowed his head to indicate his allegiance. Morosa roared with laughter, then teleported away. Nine-headed demon master raised his heads, but all 9 of them registered awful expressions. One wrong step, and all the following steps were wrong, too. There was no longer any chance to look back and reconsider his decision. Within Luo Feng's miniature universe. 100,000 heavens. The entire miniature universe had 100,000 planes. They were of different sizes, and there were also differences in structure. Indistinctly, there was contact across every one of these planes within the space. Just like a whirlpool, the chaotic airflow encircled the peripheral region of the planes. 100,000 heavens were all revolving. And internally, everything was pushing toward completion. At the same time, in the chaotic environment within the universe origin, 100,000 planets started to revolve. These 100,000 planets corresponded to 100,000 heavens. It was as if the structure of the miniature universe was undergoing a process of miniaturization within the space of the origin. Yet Luo Feng knew that it was, in fact, the space of the origin guiding everything happening on the outside world. After a while, Luo Feng's eyes shone brightly. 100,000 heavens is successfully completed, he said. Now, I must begin the most important step. Beginning of the origin. Luo Feng's willpower enshrouded his entire miniature universe. Instantly, 100,000 planes within space started to revolve violently. Every plane was indistinctly maintaining contact with one another. Such contact was unable to be detected by the naked eye. However, within the universe origin, the 100,000 planets that corresponded to 100,000 heavens were bursting with streams of golden light. These rays of light were connecting to form a massive network of incomparable precision, like a super complex in the Rhinoceros Emperor game. Form. Luo Feng's willpower let out a ferocious roar. 100,000 planets within the universe origin suddenly unleashed a dazzling light. The complex Rhinoceros Emperor game that was formed by the countless golden light rays was also bursting with energy. Within the entire core, a mass of nothingness was formed. An earth-shattering sound was heard, and the 100,000 planes were still revolving. The whirlpool they created was expanded upon their continuous bombardment against one another. These planes seemed to be randomly scattered about, but once they all started to revolve, once every single plane started to rotate at the same time, it was like Earth revolving around the sun. The 100,000 planes within the surfaces also started revolving around the core. It was too difficult. It was like pulling and grinding. The beginning pull was always the most difficult. All 100,000 planes within the surfaces surrounded the central core. And the moment they started to revolve, Luo Feng's willpower felt as though it was about to crumble and collapse. At long last, everything seemed to be revolving. Then the speed of revolution gradually increased. Steadily, some of the planes started to collide with one another. The more delicate ones immediately started to show signs of cracks. One of the planes collapsed right away. Luo Feng remained expressionless. He continued to keep everything under control. I say, form. Luo Feng's willpower roared once again. The miniature universe let out another rumble that was so loud that it could be heard even from the outside. Luo Feng's universe origin also let out the same rumble. Then what could be seen was the central position of almost 100,000 planes within spaces. A whirlpool that was in continuous revolution had appeared. It was like a bottomless black hole of whirlpools. Right in the center of the whirlpools was the universe origin. At that moment, close to the center of these 100,000 planets that were within the universe origin, a void whirlpool appeared. Done. Luo Feng could not conceal his delight. Everything returned to peace and quiet. With the void whirlpool as the center, close to 100,000 planes were led into continuous revolution. While they were revolving, a new plane unexpectedly emerged. Thereafter, planes started emerging successively. In a fleeting moment, 100,000 planes were recovered. Likewise, within the universe origin, 100,000 planets were recovered. Luo Feng's face reflected his joy. The beginning of the origin is formed. Everything will have the origin. The birth of everything and anything on Earth is now endless and limitless. The void space formed by 100,000 heavens was none other than the origin. With this origin, his miniature universe could be given endless possibilities. Even if all 100,000 planes within space were shattered, they still had the chance of rebirth. Beginning of the origin, Luo Feng looked within his own universe origin and saw 100,000 bright, dazzling planets encircling the central void as they revolved around it. This central void was the ultimate core of the entire universe origin. This origin was where everything began. Within the void space, loud gurgling sounds were soon heard. Then, like a fountain spraying water, a tremendous amount of godly ocean water gushed out. And outside Luo Feng's miniature universe, the tremendous amount of chaotic airflow was being absorbed like mad. The endless chaotic airflow started to wind and revolve around Luo Feng's miniature universe, forming a massive whirlpool. Every moment, a tremendous amount of chaotic airflow was being swallowed and transformed into godly power. All miniature universes possess the ability to transform godly powers, yet for Luo Feng, his beginning of the origin structure had enhanced this ability of transformation up to a level that was incredible beyond words. In the face of the more powerful races of the primal universe, those from the first and second reincarnation eras naturally would not dare to raise any objections. Time passed, day after day. This time around, the sector beast maintained a continuous record of devouring. It was unlike before when it merely ate for a day and disappeared afterward. When the origin of Shock Devil God's miniature universe was almost devoured by half, a troop of 12 true gods showed up. The moment this troop of true gods appeared, Morosa immediately executed the technique of disassembling his body and made a speedy escape. Merely half a day after the escape, Morosa showed up outside another miniature universe and started devouring again. 1 miniature universe, 2 miniature universes, 3 miniature universes, 6 miniature universes. Morosa had no intentions of battling any of them. Every time it encountered a troop of true gods, it took off immediately. Even though it was only a second stage sector beast now, if it wanted to escape, there was no one, other than Luo Feng and 9 remoteness true master, who could have stopped it from escaping. Primal Chaos City Leader, this is already the 6th miniature universe. In just 1 short month. If we condone all of its devouring, the origins of our miniature universes will eventually be greatly weakened. Even if we do manage to evade the sector beast crisis, given how weak our miniature universes have become, we will not be able to further rise up to the level of true gods of void space. Milky Way Horde Leader should be doing fine, we hope. If this goes on, those of us from the first and second reincarnation eras will find ourselves in a hopeless situation. Several overlords, including Divine I True Master, 9-headed Demon Master, and Juhi True God were all communicating with Primal Chaos City Leader via their transmission tokens. Like Divine I True Master, they might have had strong powers, but if the sector beast was bent on escaping, none of them would be able to stop it. Enough, Primal Chaos City Leader responded indifferently. Everyone, remember. Not to mention devouring only part of your miniature universes, even if it were to finish off a few miniature universes, or to the extent of a few true gods being annihilated, bothering Luo Feng is absolutely not allowed. Anyone who dares do otherwise will be an enemy of us humans. The moment he set the ultimatum, the numerous true gods from the first and second reincarnation eras were instantly left with no choice but to hold their peace. Luo Feng was completely oblivious to the chaos within Universe Ocean. In his miniature universe, Luo Feng was working on the evolution of chaos. The lofty law of chaos was starting to undergo a gradual transformation. It was transforming into the 10 major basic laws, including time, space, gold, wood, water, fire, earth, thunder, light, and wind. Throughout the process of change, there were also various fusion laws involved, for instance, golden space law, and time and wind law. However, these fusion laws were all concealed within the law of operation of the origin of the miniature universe the moment they appeared. The law of operation of the origin of the miniature universe was based on the 10 major laws. The law of operation of the origin of the miniature universe would conceal every complex law. Only the law of chaos was exempt, because all of these were possible, because of the evolution of the supreme law of chaos. The evolution of chaos can only be witnessed once in a lifetime. That is when one becomes a true god. There will be no such opportunity in the future. Luo Feng could not afford to be a tad inattentive because, in the future, the exaltation of his miniature universe would only be in numerous transitive increases. The law of chaos would no longer be visible at all. Being able to control the chaos, in the eyes of the ancient civilization, would make one worthy of being called a saint. The law was constantly changing. Starting out from the law of chaos alone to the point where all the other laws, with the exception of the law of chaos, were mixed together, Luo Feng carried out the transformation of the law of his universe origin. This transformation process was none other than the internal evolution of Luo Feng's universe. Naturally, Luo Feng felt overwhelmed. He had completely immersed himself in the process, and far away in the universe boat, by the black-striped stone pillar, the other body sustained by his godly power was also rapidly brooding and comprehending in an environment where time was accelerated by 10 million times. Luo Feng's comprehension was skyrocketing at an unbelievable speed. The speed at which it was soaring was simply astonishing. When crossing the threshold from a universe master to a true god, the moment the fastest increase in level attained could be seen was this very moment, when he managed to complete comprehending the evolution of chaos. Similar to how many true gods could spend just 1 to 2 reincarnation eras comprehending, the time they took was not comparable to this short period the evolution of chaos required. Before they could become true gods, most universe masters would likely only be 5th-tier universe masters. Yet, upon becoming true gods, their level of secret techniques could quickly increase to the 6th tier as the top, or even up to the 7th or 8th tier. Before the appearance of the world of Jinn, before there had been the inheritance of the ancient civilization, the most powerful outburst of combat power possible was only at the 9th tier. This was true even for the deceased huge axe and divine, true master, when relying on their supreme true treasures. This showed that, at that time, the secret techniques they had created were only at the level of the 8th tier as the top, which was already the top tier standard of the true gods of Universe Ocean at that time. Those who almost reached the level of true gods would likely only be able to create secret techniques at the 7th tier. As for Luo Feng, he was only a universe master. Yet he could compel himself into creating 2 sets of secret techniques that were at the 8th tier level. How abundant a supply he must have accumulated. At the moment, it like an incomparably dry desert that was absorbing water like mad. During the process of evolution of chaos, all enlightenment gained via comprehension was rapidly being transformed, and the avatar sustained by his godly power was comprehending while memorizing everything as fast as it could. The levels attained continued to soar, from the 8th tier as the top to the 9th tier as the top. Luo Feng did not comprehend any secret technique intentionally, but at that moment, the level he had attained could allow him to create a secret technique at the 10th tier level without much effort. The only catch was that there was only one chance for the evolution of chaos. The moment it was lost, there would not be a second chance. After a long while, Luo Feng finally let out a long sigh of relief. One of his eyes indistinctly reflected an endless whirlpool that devoured and swallowed as though the destruction of the universe was its purpose, while the other eye reflected a dazzling, golden light, as though the creation of the universe was its purpose. He shut his eyes, and the next time he blinked, all these bizarre sights vanished. Evolution of chaos. How very magical indeed, Luo Feng mused. What a pity it can only happen once. Everything is now in place. Evolution is completed, and the laws of operation of my universe are also established. Luo Feng took a single step, and emerged from his universe origin to enter into the vast miniature universe. The law of operation was established. And so, the endless chaotic airflow within his miniature universe started to transform into gold, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, lighting, light, space, time, and various other forms of energy. Within his miniature universe, there were also emerging continents and rivers. It was the birth of everything. This was the initial stage of evolution of the entire miniature universe after its birth, which could be considered to be in its primal state. Even if this had been an evolution of the primal universe, it would also have to undergo the few mandatory stages of an entire cycle, namely, the stages of birth, reaching the primal state, flourishing with prosperity, entering the stage of decline, and finally, meeting destruction. The time spent on an entire primal stage was so long that it needed to be counted in units of 100 million eras. It was just like the evolution of Teacher Origin's primal universe. When Teacher Origin had provoked the willpower of the primal universe Origin, the evolution of his primal universe had yet to be completed. This proved that the amount of time taken up by the primal stage of the evolution of a miniature universe was extremely lengthy. The law of operation has been established, Luo Feng commented to himself. Now everything is in place for any future evolution of the universe. It's time to head back. With one stride, Luo Feng exited his own miniature universe. This video will end here.